Welcome back to the Land Bulletin Podcast, where every other week we bring you experts in the field to impart their knowledge when it comes to the ranch and sporting property market, buying and selling advice, the latest best stewardship practices, as well as topics that impact landowners every day. I'm your host, Haley Mirr. Let's jump in. Okay, welcome back to the Land Bulletin, and we're going back down our Back 40 series where we look at some towns in the West that maybe you guys aren't as familiar with. Today we're looking at the town of Westcliffe, and helping me out to kind of better understand this area and kind of what to know when you're driving through there is Mr. Woody Beardsley. Welcome, Woody, to the show.
Hi, Haley. Thanks for having me.
So before we kind of dive in, for those who have never heard of Westcliffe, how would you describe it?
So Westcliffe is this gorgeous ranching town, ranching community in what's known as the Wet Mountain Valley, which is this high mountain prairie on the east side of the Sangre de Cristo Range, in kind of southern Colorado. Hour and a half from Colorado Springs, not an hour from Pueblo. Easy access, Pueblo Canyon, Salida, in terms of if you need big box retail or a more robust medical facilities, and of course just all the surrounding, skiing an hour away in Monarch, sand dunes on the other side of the mountains. There's just so much appealing and compelling about the region.
You don't have to get on that dang I-70.
And you don't have to navigate the corridor. That's right.
So can you give us a little history about the region, how it's been used over time, kind of maybe who settled it first and where it is today?
Yeah. So historically, the valley was a really important summer hunting ground for plains tribes that would come up. The bison would come in seasonally to the valley. And so it was a really important summer kind of hunting ground, if you will. Post-European settlement, there was a big boom in what's known as the Eastern Hills or the Wet Mountains, which are the east side of the valley. They found silver, lead, molybdenum. I mean, it's part of the Rocky Mountain mineral belt. And so the town of Silver Cliff and Rosita and then Westcliffe were founded in the late 1800s as part of those series of mineral booms. Subsequent, along with that came some agricultural development. The ranching community came in to serve those mining communities.
Got it. And does your family kind of have a history in Westcliffe as well?
Yeah, so I had a great, two greats, but also my great grandfather was the mayor of Westcliffe at one time, and we've got 5 generations of Beardsleys in the Rosita Cemetery. I have a great great grandmother, Pauline Swanson, who Swanson family settled Rosita, and she was a school marm. So got a lot of cool roots in the Wet Mountain Valley.
There you go. So you're definitely the guy in the know about the Wet Mountain Valley. So to you then, what makes this area of Colorado so unique? Why do you like this area of Colorado?
It's unique to me because it's kind of like Colorado used to be. It's not on the I-70 corridor. It's not on the I-25 corridor. Subsequently, it's remote from. There's no resort development there. There have been episodes of people trying, because it's such a spectacular place. There have been episodes of that through the years of people trying that. There was a little accidental ski area that never took off, and some things like that. But otherwise, it really just still feels very much like Colorado did a generation ago.
What are some of the other activities that people do in the area from like an outdoor perspective?
Well, there's just literally all the kind of host of outdoor activity that you associate with Colorado mountain living and lifestyle, hiking and skiing and backcountry skiing and snowmobiling and fishing and hunting. And there's a very robust and active equestrian riding, ATVs. There's a very popular trail called the Rainbow Trail that traverses the entire length of the Sangre de Cristo Range. It goes kind of up through the valley. So it's got no shortage of great things to do.
And in addition to kind of some of those, I was researching that it's a dark sky
Yeah.
community for stargazing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually I can. So in the late 90s of some people who've been very formative in pursuing the conservation. There's been a lot of great conservation in the Wet Mountain Valley. We're really interested in retaining this amazing dark sky because there's so little development there. Night sky is just spectacular. And a woman named Smokey Jack and her husband Bill championed this dark sky community movement for the Wet Mountain Valley and got it designated. They put together, there's a really cool little observatory in the Bluffs Park on the edge of town where you go. It's called the Smokey Jack Observatory, and they lead some really neat all summer long. And into the fall, they lead some really neat sky observations, with astronomers and telescopes. And it's a nice little piece of the activity in Westcliffe, 9 months of the year anyway.
What's the best time to visit this area?
Historically, the summer has always been the time of year. It's such a robust time of year. I mean, from the Indians to the current day, the population doubles or triples in the summer. People come. It's always been a popular destination for Texas and Oklahoma families that have been there for generations that come for the summer to get out of the heat. And so summer is just a wonderful time to be there. There's two amazing rodeos, part of the county fair, but also a ranch rodeo. There's a bluegrass festival actually happening, I think maybe right now this weekend. Wonderful bluegrass tradition that's also in that same Bluffs Park. So I think a lot of people would tell you summer. I love it there in the fall, spring and fall, in the shoulder seasons. It's also tremendous in the winter. It's just much more the population settles way back down a lot. Yeah. Just the locals there in the winter months. Winter can be very mild and easy, but winter can also be really hard. It can historically it's very tough winters. So at 8,000 feet, it's not for the faint of heart.
Can you tell me a little bit about why it might be considered a little tough in the wintertime? Does it have to do with wind or snow or just temperatures in general?
All of that, wind, snow, and just a quieter, not as much to do. It just becomes a smaller town. That may be super actually appealing to folks. I'm of the opinion that winters are nowhere what they were when, say, my great grandfather was there, or my grandfather lived there. But it's just a little harder in those winter months.
And then for someone looking at buying land or a ranch nearby, what are the biggest draws to being close to the town of Westcliffe?
Westcliffe is very central to the valley, and so kind of almost anywhere you go, the Westcliffe's gonna be where you go. And some would argue you wouldn't want to be right next to Westcliffe. There actually are some opportunities right on the edge of town. It'd be kind of cool to own a ranch, live in town on a ranch, which is you can kind of do there. But it's just that it's so central to the valley that really for any of your shopping or going to town for restaurants or just any of your needs is a really great hardware store there, a great market there. There are folks who, do run to Pueblo or do run to Canyon or Salida for other kind of big errands. There's a medical clinic in Westcliffe, but sometimes for broader healthcare services, they'll go to Pueblo or Canyon. But otherwise, Westcliffe really is the hub of this community, and subsequently, feels like that.
And in addition to maybe some of the amenities and things that are available in Westcliffe, what are some of the other things available to landowners in the area? I know you mentioned San Isabel Land Trust and called open lands. Are there a lot of hunting leases in the area? What are
Yeah,
some
so
of the things available?
the San Isabel National Forest is kind of on both sides of the valley as you leave the valley, which is generally privately held. The national forest is really all the reach up of the forest shoulders of the mountains and the mountains themselves. So there's a great deal of public land with a tremendous network of trails for riding and hiking, and there's wonderful turkey hunting. There's great fishing. Deweese Reservoir is just a couple miles north of Westcliffe. The Arkansas River is an easy drive. All those blue ribbon stretches of the Arkansas are not well within an hour's drive. So there's great fishing all around, and there's always been kind of a robust mountain climbing and hiking. There are, I think, 7 or 8 14ers in the Sangre de Cristo range, and so Westcliffe's always served as a little bit of a hub for mountaineers who are coming to do those 14ers. So they're just and there's no shortage exploring all kinds of mineral exploration, and people going through the eastern hills are dotted with old historic mining claims, and so there's all kinds of you know exploration around all that historic kind of ghost town elements that are also there in the valley.
As someone that has had even history there, maybe some of the unexpected things that people fall in love with when they live in Westcliff.
I really think I don't want to seem cliched. I think people fall in love with the community. They're just it's you get there and it's just a very friendly, very open, which is interesting because it's a conservative, it's a very traditional place, but it's a very friendly place and it's very, welcoming. And I think that regardless, whatever your interests are, whether it's bluegrass and jazz or rodeo and equestrian stuff, it's been a very interesting amalgamation of folks, and all those people turn out as part of this broader gathering. Valley Strong at the end of the summer, where literally everybody comes together to just give thanks for the amazing benefit of living in the community. It's separate from, say, the county fair, and they literally close off Main Street, and everybody, all the businesses, all the various organizations in town come in, and it's all a potluck. And you kind of have your table, and people wander and they visit and they share their meals and their bounty, and it's just been this amazing probably it's probably more than 5 years old now, but it's been this amazing addition to the community events there, and people look forward to it with you know great anticipation each season.
I love that idea. I feel like most communities should have that. And the fact that Westcliff has kind of retained that local kind of piece is really important. And definitely sets it apart, I would say, from some of the communities that we work in now.
It does, and it actually has helped kind of bridge what could be disparate kind of political or disparate kind of attitudes about where the community ought to go, and it brings them together and gives it a cohesiveness. And you'd asked earlier about what's special about Westcliff, and notwithstanding all the amazing and abundant, I mean, just the view alone would be a reason to want to live in Westcliff. But I think people increasingly would say it's the people that really make it such a special place.
Can you tell us a little bit about Mirr Ranch Group's experience kind of with either existing listings or things we've sold in Westcliff that you feel really capture kind of the essence of what properties can kind of look like down there?
We've been really fortunate to be able to do a lot of business in the Wet Mountain Valley, or I for sure have. And one of the things I think that stands out for us is our ability to understand and otherwise work with and or market properties that are protected by conservation easements. A number of properties in the Wet Mountain Valley have been conserved. Either through Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust or through what was known as the San Isabel Land Protection Trust, which is now part of Colorado Open Lands. It's easy for the uninitiated to see conservation easements as, ooh, I'm not sure. They seem complicated. Oh, I can't do anything with my property. There are these kind of initial responses to what conservation is that are misleading and they're understandable, but they don't tell the whole story. And I think our ability to see the greater value that conservation conserved properties provide and or otherwise embraced, they appreciate at the same rate or better than properties that aren't conserved. They add value in adjacency to the neighborhood, and they make it that much more appealing. What people are drawn to the Wet Mountain Valley is for what it is, and not maybe what it could be in terms of condos and
Right.
developments and all of that. And so I think that our ability to kind of understand that and navigate that and help people come to understand the value of that, both as buyers and sellers, has been a piece that uh, makes our work down there different than others, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say so, and I think that's, even the way that you've marketed some of these properties, I think that language of, you know, buying and investing in this area because of what it holds and what it is, and versus some of these other kind of, what's my potential for making a lot of dough and selling this to a developer later on. It's like
Yeah,
you're investing in this for a reason.
we've got another listing in the Wet Mountain Valley, still active listing on the Harold G. Vickerman Ranch, which is this amazing family that's been huge proponents of conservation, ranching family. They've been big proponents of conserving the valley. They did an early the ranch was kind of three parts: Lower Valley, where the main headquarters were, with the hay production. This one that's under that we've got listed is kind of the middle ranch, was kind of in the transition from the valley bottom to, and then the third part was some summer grass that they did the original their summer lease up against the national forest. They had a private ground up there. They sold that to a member of the community that put it under conservation easement early on, and then the family followed that, and I don't remember how many years ago, put a conservation easement on the main headquarters of the place. And now more recently, we've put a conservation easement. They put a conservation easement on the piece that we're now marketing, and it's a centennial ranch that's been in the family for 100 years. And there's been some development in the Eastern Hills there, and they want to make sure that it didn't all go that way. And so this is this wonderful kind of piece of the Eastern Hills that's going to stay, and it's always been very important habitat for elk and deer and other species that transition seasonally from up in the higher hills and the summer grass down into the valley bottoms. And so there's still a lot of a transition across. It's an important kind of wildlife corridor. Um, and it's just a spectacular place with spectacular views, and it is important wildlife dynamic on it is really, really a very special place.
In your opinion, who do you think is like an ideal buyer for something like that?
Um, Well, someone who obviously appreciates that conservation value. We're the conservation easement is very savvy and smart about retaining um, a number of different building sites that the buyer can choose from, and they have a lot of flexibility not only in the number but in where they can go. And so it makes it still very attractive if you wanna, either right now, there are no improvements on this ranch, so we wanted to make sure that it gave a buyer an opportunity to really find a unique location for a homestead there.
In your opinion, who do you think is the key demographic or key investor looking at purchasing it out here? And like, who do you think would thrive living in the wet mountain range?
Well, it's interesting right now with cattle prices where they are. Obviously, there's sort of a real interest in finding good grass. So there's still an opportunity for like true ag producers. They're fewer and far between. There are not a lot of them on the market. But then historically, also the kind of second home, absentee landowner who loves to be there, wants to be there in the summer, but wants to embrace some of the may work with a neighbor to manage a ranch or manage a property when they're not there. Certainly, that market is still a big piece of what of the Wet Mountain Valley market, if you will. Um, and that can be anything from you know increasingly people from the Front Range. There have always been people from Colorado Springs who've liked the Wet Mountain Valley. It's relatively close; they can get there short notice. Um, Denver Front Range, increasingly, that's a potential, but always historically, there's been some very real interest out of, say, Texas and Oklahoma, people from there that have found the area attractive. And then, of course, people from anywhere that there's looking for, very typically looking for kind of a summer retreat or a family retreat of sorts. That's been a big piece of the history of Wet Mountain Valley real estate for well over 100 years now. That's how my great grandparents came there.
One of the things we like to do on the back 40, partially because I like to know, as does our producer, where to go when we're on road trips. So any local kind of hidden gems, restaurants, cafes, places to see that you love to go to when you're in this valley, in Westcliffe, things like that.
A little over halfway between, uh, say, Westcliffe and Rye is a thing called Bishop's Castle. And Bishop's Castle is this obscure kind of, I'm going to tell the story wrong, but this guy, I guess, historically just decided to start building a castle on the hillside. There's this tremendous views of the prairie and just the surrounding countryside. And it's this kind of anomaly, and people love to stop. It's in the town or the community of San Isabel, which is basically a reservoir in the foothills of the wet mountains. And this was this kind of project in the works. It kind of grew through the years. And again, I'm telling the story wrong, but it's this wonderful place to kind of go and just go, wow, somebody built this thing. And because it was, I don't know if it was intended to be this guy's headquarters or was always just going to be this anomaly, but it's this really interesting kind of tourist curiosity, maybe the thing to call it. A lot of people enjoy going there. It's in a very gorgeous location.
I've seen that on like Instagram, but I've never had the chance. It looks like quite the spot that you would not expect, and I feel that region of Colorado.
There's also on the divide between the Wet Mountain Valley and say Gardner, up kind of north of Madonna Pass, I think. There's reportedly I don't know if they call them fairy caves or what they actually call them, but there's some caves up on the side of above the Rainbow Trail, up on the mountain shoulder, that you can get in there and you explore. I think there's all kinds of I don't know what gems, whether there's sapphires or rubies, or there's some kind of interesting caves that you can go explore and find these buried not treasure, because no one's already, they're just part of the natural currents subsurface, and I can't remember the name of those caves.
I'm looking at it
I've
now.
tried,
Just
actually, I've tried a couple of times to find them and never have, but they're there. People I know have said they'd found them, but it's kind of a one of those curiosities that people love to go explore for.
it's community. There's a little bit of magic hidden in there.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really neat spot. I do love that, to your point, it is what it is, and it's going to be like that. And it's just kind of this place that if you are searching for that, you'll find it in the Wet Mountain Valley. So perfect. Well, Woody, thank you so much for taking the time. I would love to go to that Valley Strong community dinner with you
Yeah,
sometime.
let's
I think
figure
that'd be
that out. It'd
fun.
be great.
That'd be really fun. A little field trip down
Well,
to Main Street.
the problem is you get going and you end up having a conversation. All these people you want to go say hi to, and you make it by about 3 tables, and by then the event's over because you've just been sitting there jawing with folks. But it's really wonderful,
Well, it
wonderful.
sounds like it's old home week for you going down there. So I feel like you're a celeb. Well, awesome. It was really great to understand a little bit more. I've obviously heard of Westcliff since I was a kid, but to understand a little bit more about what makes it so special was a really neat experience. And, with the Harold G. Vickerman still on the market, your understanding of some of these conservation easements, things like that, there's still a lot of opportunity to buy down there. So
Indeed.
perfect. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Woody. And
Favor.
if you all have questions about the Wet Mountain Valley or Westcliff or any of those kind of surrounding areas, Woody is obviously your man. So give him a call or give Mirr Ranch Group a call, and we'll help you out. But thanks for taking the time to listen to the Back 40. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us today. To learn more about the ranch real estate market or our ranch marketing process, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter on our website at mirranchgroup.com or give us a call at 303-623-4545. See you next time.